Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, covering the media days across America throughout this week. Of course, the SEC kicking off on Monday, along with the Big 12, the ACC yesterday, and the Big 10 has hit the podium today with the Pac-12 in Hollywood on July 24th. And you know, if you watch us to any degree, that we cover college football, best discussion, debate, and analysis here online. So I was going to post this video much later. My intent was to post this video much later because of my schedule today, my work obligations. I would not be able to get back online until at least 1 o'clock in the morning, and maybe not until Friday. So I just watched Big Ten outgoing Commissioner Jim Delaney's comments from the podium to kick off Big Ten Media Days, and I just had to jump online very quickly to state my response, and then also thought the best and most efficient and quickest transmission to you would be to do it live to avoid all the posting and editing and so forth. So I will try to catch up with your comments. I don't have much time. So I'm going to spit out what I have in regards to what the commissioner had to say in his final appearance again at Big Ten Media Days. So to get to the main, most important topics, most popular topics, most relevant to you as a college football fan, they dealt with the college football playoff, and he was just nailed with questions concerning the college football playoff. Not difficult questions, just the volume of questions definitely had to do and centered on, number one, the college football playoff. And obviously the Big Ten has been snubbed for 2 consecutive seasons. And then also the future scheduling of games, how that will impact the conference's resume and those potential college football playoff contenders, and then how that compares to the rest of the nation. So definitely Jim Delaney is always going to be professional, above board, give much credit to his peers outside the conference, those programs and conferences outside the conference. He's always going to make it a very professional and, again, very high level, high road stance. And if he has an axe to grind, it's going to be stated very professionally, and it's going to be understated. There is no question that Jim Delaney, in driving this conference, has done an exceptional job on many levels. Maybe his biggest deficiency has not been as a promoter, an outward promoter, a confrontational type leader in some of these quests to get the Big Ten front and center in a football capacity in a changing world. So he very much wants to play it by the book, stay by the book, and cooperate. And that's certainly the best way to approach it initially. Cooperate with the system and cooperate with the other conferences and commissioners. But he has seen, I don't think there's any question, he has seen, and Big Ten supporters have seen, inequality in recent years and just the vague approach to the college football playoff selection. And that has been something that has not set well with him, but he's been very understated about it. He was a little bit more clear about those expectations and those disappointments at the podium today. Strength of schedule. He was asked about playing 9 Big Ten games. He said that even though the college football playoff situation was taken into account and they worked with the college football playoff initiative at the time when they went from 8 to 9 conference games, that definitely this was more about game experience. This was more about making the best experience for the fans at the stadiums with better games. Because if you think about it, once you add a conference game for 14 teams, you're adding all of those games, additional games. It's only a 12-game schedule. And once you go to 9 conference games, then you certainly have added quality. Is Rutgers versus Illinois quality? No, but that's the rare exception. And obviously, as being part of the league, then they take part in that as well. But most of the games are better, more quality games than what you will find outside the conference. And he certainly cited a comparison between the number of games the Big Ten has played against FCS opponents and what the ACC and the SEC have played. It was something in the range of 20 games for the Big Ten in the last several years against FCS opponents versus the SEC and the ACC having played 86. He cited an 84-2 record for those two conferences against the FCS. So it's automatically going to be a weaker schedule for those two conferences out of conference. I'm not debating anyone right now in regards to the strength of the various conferences. I believe that the SEC is the best conference. The ACC is not anywhere close to the best conference. It might be the worst conference. All right, back to Jim Delaney's comments here. So he went back to the initial college football playoff criteria, and he quoted it based on strength of schedule being a huge determining factor. And he was talking about it's stated in the wording, I don't have it in front of me, that when comparing similar teams with the same or similar records, resume, that strength of schedule and conference championship, it didn't call it a determining factor, but should be weighed in heavily. That's a rough paraphrase. I didn't jot it down exactly and don't have it in front of me. But that's not been rewarded for the last 2 years, obviously, with Ohio State winning the Big Ten with a better win resume than its competitors, but suffering the one awful loss. And that's not up for debate right now. We have debated that for 2 years. All right. He's in favor of mandating 10 Power 5 games, as is the Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsley. 10 Power 5 games. He would like to see that played and that mandated for everyone. So certainly in the ACC and the SEC, where they only play 8 conference games, then they typically pick up 1 Power 5. Most of those teams, there's about half that pick up a second Power 5 game, especially those teams in the ACC and the SEC that have cross-conference rivalries, i.e. Clemson and South Carolina. But he is definitely in favor of 10 Power 5 games mandated, but certainly made it known, hey, this is a cooperation amongst all of us. There is no czar of college football. That person would not be voted on, or they would not be a czar. Czars are not voted on. And that was a bit of an amusing comment by Mr. Jim Delaney. He's in favor of 10 Power 5 conference games, but does believe that it needs to be a cooperative effort. And again, the college football playoff definitely was on his mind and certainly on the minds of all of us pertaining to college football. This is what it's all about when we talk about playing for a championship. Why do you play? Why do you play serious competitive sports? It's to win a championship. Well, within the various conferences, that's objective. Nobody has to guess what you have to do to win a Big 12 championship or an SEC championship. You play the schedule. You're the best team in your division. You have the best record. You go play a championship game. In the college football playoff, we are guessing. It's a guessing game and moving target as to who's going to be selected and why, because it's changed every year, and the justification for those selections has been changed every year. Every year. That's maybe how I would have stated it as especially outgoing Big Ten commissioner. But of course, Jim Delaney wasn't going to go to that degree. He was asked about Big Ten football in the future, how he sees it. He was also asked about the possible challenges. He dodged that portion of the question, or maybe conveniently forgot he was asked about the challenges to Big Ten football, which is obvious. People are moving south. People are moving west. People are not moving to Iowa. People are not moving to Michigan. Fill in the blank. Really, the entire region is losing population, or it's stagnant. I know in particular in Ohio, it's stagnant. People are moving to the deep south. They're moving to Florida. They're moving out west to Arizona and California. So losing population means you're losing fans, You're losing viewers potentially. I know that's not happening right now. It's a very healthy league right now, but potentially losing viewership, losing players because you got to run around the country and get them from Texas, California, Florida, and the deep South. And so that's an obvious issue that we've known for, and it's been going on for 20 years plus. But he definitely stated where he believes the conference stands as it pertains specifically to football, that it's in a strong position. He expanded past that focus on the 4 that get selected to look at the quality of football that we display on the field, where our teams are ranked, how well they participate in postseason play. He cited, and I've not backed up this statement, that the Big Ten has won the most New Year's Six bowl games, or BC, what were prior to 2014 BCS bowl games, the major bowl games. We don't need to make a delineation or a separation between 2014 and the playoff and before that, because they were the same bowl games, basically selected in the same process. There was just a different championship format going from 2 to 4, but it's the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and now the Peach Bowl. And that the Big Ten has won, I don't know his frame of reference in regards to time, but has won the most New Year's Six / BCS bowl games. Because he was asked about that, because the Big Ten has been slighted in the last couple of years for those next level invitations past the BCS championship game and now the college football playoff scenario of 4. But just go back to 2016, in which Ohio State made the playoff, Penn State made the Rose Bowl, and Wisconsin made the Cotton Bowl. And that is the typical showing from the Big Ten. The SEC and the Big Ten have played in the most major bowl games, meaning the ones I just cited, since the BCS system was in play in 1998, and it's not even close. If you start in 1998 and take it through last season and count up major bowl games, the ones I just cited, the SEC and the Big Ten have played in the most by far. This tells us 2 things. They're the best conferences on the field, and they're the most attractive conferences to the television markets, the sponsors, the advertisers that want, if it's a tie between Michigan and Washington, to go to a New Year's Six bowl game, they're going to take Michigan. They're going to bring many more eyes to the TV sets. So those are the selections that are made, and the Big Ten is still in a prime position. Prime position, despite the loss of population. Those people are still moving, but they're probably maintaining their Big Ten loyalty to a degree, because we see by all the measurements out there, take it off the field for a second, people in the seats, in the stadiums, it's not even close. The SEC and the Big Ten rule. Viewership, as Jim Delaney cited today, of the 20 highest rated television games this past college football season, 10 were Big Ten games, 10 of 20, or they involved a Big Ten team. I'm sure he didn't state that specifically, but I'm thinking Michigan, Notre Dame, Ohio State, TCU, possibly. So 10 of the 20. And let's see, he cited 7 of the 10 Fox most highly rated games. That was another interesting factor in his speech in response to questions, and also the president of the Big Ten Network. And I certainly understand his slant, but Jim Delaney cited their partnerships with Fox. And of course, that's an ownership, that's an in-house relationship versus the other networks that he would not cite. And there's a strong relationship between the Big Ten and the other networks. A large portion of their games on ABC and ESPN, ESPN2, but that was not stated. But he did talk about the relationship with Fox. And of course, again, that's an ownership relationship. Talked about health and safety. Talked about this being the 48th Big Ten Media Days. Let that sink in. So the SEC was the first one to really launch it on a grand, large scale, but the SEC coaches have been meeting with the media since 1971. You talked about the transition to the new commissioner. We will have much more on that as that transition takes place, and our thoughts about that. Certainly, when that was announced, I posted a video with my thoughts on the new Big Ten commissioner, so please check out that video. Jim Delaney's been in place in the Big Ten since 1989. He's been extremely successful. Hardcore Big Ten football fans may have some issues with some snubs the past few years, and Jim Delaney not being largely outspoken, and then in the past, him not being aggressive from a football standpoint. But they expanded. They bring in the revenue unlike anybody else except the SEC, and it's a very lucrative and successful conference by all measurements, on the field and off the field. And he emphasized a number of times that because of the strength of the conference at the top, the Wisconsins, Penn States, in addition to Ohio State, Michigan State under Mark D'Antonio, he wasn't this specific. But if the field is expanded in the playoff, if you look past the 4 that have been selected, well, 8 would have included Big Ten teams, multiple Big Ten teams, if you look at the rankings and the way the teams are seeded. He talked about primetime games. Okay, many of you watch me on a regular basis that are not locked in on necessarily Big Ten football specifically, but you're locked into your team in another conference or that conference, that section of the country, or a national look at college football. And that's why you join me, and I appreciate your viewership. So understand that the Big Ten, unlike more so than any other conference, and this has been to its credit, it's an honor to the Big Ten, but it's also been to, at times, to its detriment, that it's very tradition-based. So the additions of football programs at Nebraska, Rutgers, and Maryland were not football moves. Nebraska was, and they made some academic considerations to get Nebraska within their stipulations. With Rutgers and Maryland, yes, they did it for athletic considerations and monetary considerations. First and foremost, it was a money move to bring in the New York and DC and Baltimore markets. And then after that, it was broadening the footprint for more financial considerations. And then it had to do with athletics and not football. So that was one of the few non-football moves made by all this expansion over the last 20 years. Nebraska was a football move for sure. Back to my point about the Big Ten being tied to tradition. That means in the past, less primetime games, not moving any games to Thursday or Friday. That has meant playing day games and being very hesitant. The last conference to move into the primetime window, and the last conference to move multiple games into the primetime window, and they still have an agreement with the universities that they will only move so many games into prime time. But they're moving into that area more and more and more along with everyone else. And to Jim Delaney's credit, I won't get into these areas because they are huge, overencompassing topics about student athletes and how they should be treated and how they should be worked and what should be the conditions placed on them. And he talked all about that. And I am in complete agreement with what's happened to college athletics since the 1970s, when basically the money exploded. Therefore, the approach to it being a big time business completely exploded. And they went from being true student first, athletes second commodities to athletes first, maybe students. Yes, many of them are tremendous students, but the student aspect of it for some being somewhat optional. Of course, he didn't state it that plainly, but that's what it's become. He talked about freshmen being eligible, that at one point freshmen were not eligible. New college football fans, younger audience, believe me that prior to 19, I believe it was 72, freshmen were not eligible. Can you imagine that going on today? That was to protect the student athlete. That was a good thing for the student athlete. We would think it would be horrible now because we're looking at a pro career, pro projection and future. We're not focusing on the individual and the rarity that is. We're focusing on what we watch on TV, and we're focusing on the top one of 1% that we watch on a regular basis. But he really didn't take a deep dive, but glossed over all the topics that he has been a champion of and has regretted. The comment was made, the question was made about what he regrets as a conference commissioner. And by the time he took over in 1989, it was very difficult for him to pull back history at that point, because most of this had already been set into motion in regards to the proliferation of the business side of college athletics and football in particular. But just the culture has completely changed. And we're talking about an athlete in Jim Delaney who played on the North Carolina basketball team that went to the Final Four in 1968. So he played big time college athletics. He knows what was demanded of him in 1968 and what's demanded of these kids in 2019. And it's not even comparable. I've listened to Jim Delaney speak in person on a number of occasions, and I've been very impressed with what he has had to balance his entire career, the values that he holds near and dear, and trying to champion the causes of the student athlete and maintaining amateurism. He's trying to balance that with, and he's at a very difficult place with running the most dominant, or one of the two most dominant athletic conferences in the country. Therefore, it's almost like being a politician. You can have a lot of values, but if you're going to cooperate and build your brand and really represent and succeed in your role in building the product, which is the Big Ten athletics, football in particular, then you have to compromise your ideals, because it's about money, it's about TV, it's about ratings, it's about more games, it's about championships, it's about playoffs, it's about all those things that take some of these ideals concerning the student athletes and stretching it. All right, I am going to check on the live chat, and then I really need to run. So I appreciate your patience. I apologize for these impromptu live streams. I heard from Jim Delaney. I knew that I wouldn't be able to address this until late tonight or tomorrow. And so I just wanted to jump online and give my thoughts and reaction to his comments at the podium. Also, I will work on a live stream schedule to try to get that to all of you. We were diligent in keeping our live stream schedule for the 2018 college football season, and it's fallen apart since then due to other obligations. But I will work on a schedule that I can adhere to, because many of you complained throughout the week, and rightfully so, that Mark, I missed your live stream, didn't know it was coming. I didn't know it was coming. So we will work on what we can commit to for this fall. All right, we've got Lucas on the line. It sounded like Delaney is pushing for the Big Ten to get back into the playoffs. He certainly is. D. Parat's got Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson coming up this year in the playoff. All right. A lot back and forth. D. Parat, NCIS Fanatic 21. Hardwired to self-destruction. Ohio State beats Michigan. All right. Anything else? Anything else relevant to what we're talking about? Stone Cold Sassafras Squatch. Looking forward to seeing LSU new offensive philosophy. I don't think that has much to do with Big Ten football. Anything else from here? Nebraska has been 4-8 2 years in a row. Okay. All right. Anything else about what we talked about? Don't see anything else. Appreciate you guys jumping on board with me. Please like, comment, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Again, you can help us by just simply liking the videos. Even if you have nothing to say, don't want to comment to the channel, which of course I encourage. We've got over 45,000 comments to the channel year to date. So thank you for the response. But please like the videos. That helps the YouTube algorithms. And if you want us to continue doing what we're doing, and that's providing the best in discussion, debate, and analysis of college football, especially the Power Five, then please, I encourage you to help us out in that manner. Also, down below in the description section, Down below in the description section, you will see a link. It says Voice of College Football Community. Please join me there. 2 exclusive live streams delivered to you each and every week. One, me responding to your viewer comments here on YouTube. The other one, I bring you on to talk college football with me as a subscriber. And what this is going to look like in the future is 3 or 4 of you on at one time to talk college football with me as kind of an open forum. And then if there are other people waiting, we'll bring them on after 10 or 15 minutes. It's going to be amazing. And this was suggested by you. All of you suggested that. Not all of you, but a number of you, I'd say 15 to 20 of you suggested this. This was not my idea, but you wanted a platform to be able to come on and much like the guests do and talk to me directly. Let's see. And there will be at some point in the next few weeks another announcement of more content, exclusive content that is going to be available at the Voice of College Football Community. So join that link and jump on it right now. Also, Amazon shopping, please do it using that link to help us build the channel. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. We will be back with more coverage of media days across the country tomorrow and a number of college football position previews, schedule rankings. I'm posting 2 more today. And we will take you on through the weekend, get you set for 2019, as we always do right here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Anybody else on the live chat? Appreciate all of you, and we will see you soon.